Once again, a warm welcome to you. South Africa has filed an application instituting proceedings against Israel before the International Court of Justice. The application concerns alleged violations by Israel of its obligations under the Convention on the Prevention and Punishment of Crime of Genocide in relation to Palestinians in the Gaza Strip. According to the application, acts and omissions by Israel are genocidal in character as they're committed with the requisite specific intent to destroy Palestinians in Gaza as part of the broader Palestinian national, racial and ethnical group, and that the conduct of Israel through its state organs, state agents and other persons and entities acting on its instructions or under its direction, control or influence in relation to Palestinians in Gaza is in violation of its obligations under the Genocide Convention. All right, and we have our international news editor, Sophie Mokoena, to tell us more about what is taking place at this current time and this, of course, drastic measure taken by South Africa against Israel. A very good evening to you, Sophie. All right, so South Africa has been relatively clear about its stance when we're talking about Israel and Palestine, but to go the legal route and to go to this extent, what does it mean?
Well, clearly South Africa is demonstrating its resolve in relation to what they see as a genocide that is unfolding in Palestine, in Gaza Strip, where Israeli defense force is continuing with the bombardment. Only 2 days ago, Israel yesterday admitted that it erred when it attacked a refugee camp and 70 people were killed. I'm just talking about that specific attack, that they have acknowledged that it was a mistake. And I'm not even talking about other skirmishes around Gaza, including the West Bank. And therefore, South Africa has already put the matter of this nature before the International Criminal Court. And when you look at the International Criminal Court, it will have to look at individuals. Therefore, the Prime Minister of Israel, the command structure of the defense force will have to be brought before the International Criminal Court after investigation. Now, in relation to the International Court of Justice, here it is a matter against a country. A country, South Africa, has taken this matter against a country, Israel, and therefore it will be that kind of a case.
And I mean, in this kind of a situation, who would then, have to answer for these perceived crimes when we're talking about, a country? We're saying that, if South Africa is saying that Israel needs to be put forward before this court, it means that, there needs to be heads that roll. But which heads are rolling at that point?
Clearly, it will be the government. Clearly, it will be the government. The government will have to go and account. But in the case of International Criminal Court, the individuals will have to go and account. As you know that with al-Bashir, it was not about Sudan government, but it was ICC, and therefore it was the head of state who was supposed to account. Similarly to Putin, the warrant of arrest from ICC, it's not about the entire Russian command structure, but individuals, including the head of state, President Vladimir Putin. And that is the difference. And I think already the International Court of Justice in February, it was supposed to look at the matter of the two countries, that is Palestine and also Israel. This matter was already before the International Court of Justice, and now with South Africa bringing again this matter with recent incidents where South Africa has characterized those incidents as genocide. As you pointed out, the Convention on Genocide to Prevent Genocide and Punishment that was adopted in 1948 after the Second World War. This is what South Africa is currently putting forward, that this convention should be implemented in this case, because what has transpired in Gaza amounts to genocide.
And I mean, I would imagine that it puts these international courts, whether we're talking about the International Court of Justice or we're talking about the ICC, in a bit of a tight position, because there has been a lot of talk around the fact that there is a sort of inequality in that we don't see, the West or allies of the West being put forward, being answerable to international courts, especially when it comes to the ICC. And now there's a lot of information talking about Israel and what South Africa has put forward. It does seem that the International the International Court of Justice will have a lot to answer for, and it will be quite a tricky situation for them, won't it be?
It will be, but they will have to handle the matter as they've done with other matters that are before the court. And therefore, we know that there has been a concern in terms of how these institutions are conducting themselves, particularly when a matter involves big, powerful nations such as the United States of America. Because remember, the U.S., with its military might, it has been supporting Israel. And therefore, when you touch Israel, you touch the United States of America by extension. Yeah. And therefore, there's going to be a protracted battle to try and push that this matter doesn't see the light of the day. But balance of forces around the world have shifted. The United States of America is still powerful, but there is a powerful voice from the South, from the developing countries. And you remember when South Africa made an announcement that they have brought this matter before the ICC, you saw other countries from the South also joining in that matter. And I expect in this case again, other countries from the South are going to join this case.
I'm wondering if it's not, on the part of South Africa, also a way of putting forward, their case when it comes to the withdrawal from the Rome Statute. I mean, if this matter isn't handled properly or correctly, as you point out, that would make the case for South Africa and other countries who have bemoaned the idea that these international courts are not acting in a way that is equal when it comes to leaders of countries that are not attached to the West. Is this South Africa's way of perhaps, proving the point? The fact that we've been saying we want this withdrawal from the Rome Statute, painting a picture that this is what we're saying, that when we're bringing, the West or countries affiliated to the West, that nothing is done.
You are correct, Flo. You know that at some point in time, the governing party took a resolution at its conference to withdraw from the International Criminal Court. But that resolution was rescinded by the conference, another conference, after President Ramaphosa took power as a leader of the ANC. And then even in government, then there was an instruction from government to stop those processes or rescind those processes. Now South Africa is saying, you see, we told you that we will rescind this decision. We want to see you acting impartially. And this time around now, they've put these two institutions on the spotlight to say, act. Because we, the developing countries, we, the West in particular, we've been lamenting the fact that when coming to big nations, you tend to look away. So it will be up to the two institutions, particularly the International Criminal Court, because the prosecutor is from the United Kingdom, and you know where the UK stands on this matter. And therefore, the prosecutor must do his work. All eyes are on the prosecutor. You know that at the conference at the United Nations now recently, South Africa again made its statement very clear about its displeasure in relation to how the ICC is conducting itself. And now, again, you have the International Court of Justice. And you know that one of our citizens is going to be taking his place in that court, International Court of Justice, next year. Yeah. You'd recall that we spoke to him when the General Assembly gave him a thumbs up. And I think, and some people will look at that also. And already Israel has issued a statement expressing its displeasure while the human rights organizations in Palestine have commended South Africa. As we speak, the story is making waves internationally and all international networks.
Just in closing, Ma'am Sophie, while we're on this issue, I want to talk about, and I know we don't have a lot of time, but the aspect of international relations between South Africa and Israel. Is this not now a way of South Africa really drawing the enemy lines? And like I said earlier, South Africa has been clear about its stance, but when you're going the legal route in this way and approaching the International Court of Justice, you're really solidifying what your standpoint is. So one wonders what this would mean then for international relations between South Africa and that of Israel, or was it already at the point of no return in any case?
Well, Flo, you know where South Africa stands, but it's not about now. You know the history of this country. You know how the black African majority and Indians and colored suffered under the apartheid regime that was supported by countries such as the US and Israel. And those atrocities, the scars are still there. There's no way a country that has gone through a similar experience was going to stand idly when another country is going through a similar situation. I think for South Africa, it's the conviction of the country where it comes from. And two, you know that this is not the first time all the former leaders of South Africa post-1994 have been very clear in relation to the Middle East question. Second, the other important issue, people are talking, South Africans, some of them, they are very vocal in terms of pushing the country to do something based on the experience of South Africa. You know that Reverend Chikani and the others were in the Middle East on Christmas Day. And immediately when they left, there was an attack in Bethlehem. And 2 days after, there's an attack at the refugee camps, and Israel is now apologizing. So, people are having fun. It's Christmas, it's New Year, but on international front, the story is huge. People are dying like flies in Palestine.
All right. Sophie Mokoena, thanks. Many thanks to you for that. That's our international news editor here at SABC News. Of course, with the news just in there that South Africa has indeed filed an application instituting proceedings against Israel before the International Court of Justice.